Hi everyone, welcome to week 13. I hope you all had a very relaxing long weekend, and I wish you all happy Veterans Day again. So this week you all have your iSearch papers due on November 15th, so Friday. And just a reminder, you do have the 2-day grace period that applies for this project too, so you have until Sunday night to get those in and they won't be counted as late. I'm really looking forward to reading all of them and getting to see all the sources that you found. So for our modules this week, we are going to be covering, for Module 13, Civil Rights and Race in the mid-20th century. And then in Module 24, we'll be looking at Lyndon Johnson's Great Society. So these two modules are really related in terms of this larger question about the intersection or interaction between grassroots activism and then laws, legislation, and policy. So over the next few weeks, we'll be asking this question kind of over and over, and that it's, do people's minds change the laws, or do the laws change people's minds? So we'll have lots of opportunities to debate this as we get into all of the activism and the social unrest that occurred over the course of, the mid-1950s through the 1970s. So Module 23, we're going to look at this discussion in terms of desegregation and in terms of the massive resistance to integration that occurred in the South in the 1950s, as well as the surge in activism on the part of students, both Black and white students in the era. And then additionally, we'll talk about the nature of civil rights leadership. So we'll look at some well-known figures like Martin Luther King, for example, but we're also going to look at this different style of leadership that comes out of the civil rights movement. So things like collective democratic organizing and a lot of the Black women that were kind of behind this leadership style that was really sustained a lot of the civil rights activism from the 50s and the 1960s. And then in Module 24, we're going to look at mainly at the policy changes that occurred partly as a result of all that activism that came out of the South. We'll look at expansion of welfare programs under Lyndon Johnson's Great Society, namely the war on poverty and how that was related to poor people's activism, and then what folks were able to do with those new government programs. So the mid-1950s to the mid-1960s, we really see a very interesting relationship between the government and the people. A lot of grassroots activism was geared towards changing laws, so implementing new legislation like the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, getting involved in these new war on poverty programs, as I'll go over in Module 24, and just wanting to have a voice, wanting to have a place in local leadership, wanting to be there, have a seat at the table in terms of politics, really be full citizens in that sense, in the kind of traditional sense. So next week we'll look at how the goals of the activists really kind of shifted. There wasn't as much concern with getting a seat at the table. It was more about kind of throwing out the table and critiquing kind of what it meant to be, a full member of the American polity when people just didn't agree with the way that the country was had been structured, these institutional critiques. So it's an interesting shift from this week to next week. That's all I will say about that. So that's it. In terms of upcoming assignments, after your iSearch paper, you'll have next week is the option to do your third extra credit paper, and I'll post the information about that within the next couple days. And then I will post the rubric and the prompt for the Instagram post before we go on Thanksgiving break. But we're really getting towards the end of the semester, so we'll just keep going, finish strong. Good luck with your iSearch papers. Please reach out to me if you have any questions, and I will talk to you all soon. All right, thanks.